Alright, we're gonna start putting the transmission back together since we rebuilt the valve body. And the first part that goes in is this piece. And I need that part that fell. So I'm gonna lubricate the stuff with some transmission fluid and start sticking it back together so it's wet when it fires up. I got some brake clean it off as it goes together and try to get as much of the dirt out as I can. Alright, so I've dropped that first piece that has that, so it only spins one way. Doesn't spin the back way. That's what those bearings do in the back. And I take all these thrust washers and I got new transmission fluid. And I get them wet. All the surfaces are wet when I start here. And it'll drop back on in there one way. Like so. So I gotta make sure those are set. I need to make sure that's all the way back. There's one on the other side too. So now all the clutches need to go in, and each clutch pack, I'm going to do them one at a time, but they need to sit submerged in the new transmission fluid for 15 minutes at least to let that new clutches soak the fluid up. So we're going to build the pack like it was when it came out. I got everything stacked up over there. Alright, so I got the clutches submerged in the fluid there. And you know, they match. This back set is actually see, all the clutch material is gone. See how it's burnt. So this is the one that we need. It was actually the problem with it. I mean, the whole transmission needed to be opened up and cleaned out the water out of it, or it was just what happened over and over again. So we're going to rebuild this clutch pack. We're going to let these sit in here for at least 15 minutes. Pull them out, and you'll see me shove them back in there, and then put the clip on, the circlip. Alright, I already dropped one steel back in there. And I got all new steels from the kit that I bought. Come with all new ones. So I dropped the steel in, get it wet. And then I'm going to grab one wet clutch and put it in, and then a wet steel, and then a wet clutch, and a wet steel. So, and we'll get the whole basket put together here, and then put the circlip in. I need both hands. I got the clutch pack all put back together, and then I pushed that circlip in, and it's popped in the groove now. So now I'll take the planetary out, and gotta make sure these thrust washers, see how that one fell off? Gotta make sure these thrust washers go in. So I'll clean that off, and then I'll dip it in the fluid and put that planetary gear back in there. Okay, so I got that 4-pinion planetary back in, and then I got the circlip that holds it. And I had to take a screwdriver and just tap it and work this till it dropped in all the way, and then that circlip dropped in. So now we're ready for the next piece, and that's the first gear band set that was tore up on me last time. So we're gonna go on and put the reverse drum and stuff in. Alright, so I've slid the third gear drum and 3-pinion planetary into the first gear's clutch set. So now I'm ready to rebuild all these reverse clutches. And the same thing, I need to let them soak for at least 15 minutes. And this is the one that I got to press that wafer spacer down with the clamp. So we'll get this all ready to go back together. And I got new springs for this too. The only thing that gets reused is that first thicker plate. So these clutches were okay. Well, I got all new clutches, so we're going to use the new stuff. Alright, same thing. Put a steel and then put a clutch in, then wet steel, and a clutch, and a wet steel, now that needle bearing in there, I blew it out with brake clean and cleaned it, and the other half of the race is in here, so I made sure that race is actually inside here, and it has been well lubricated. This is the other style of race truss bearing. So I got a steel and then a wet clutch, wet steel, rebuilding these transmissions aren't that bad. There is always a chance that it just won't work. So then I need the one that was the upper. So I'm going to clean this off before I stick it in there, just in case it has like a weird hair on it or something. And then that circlip will go in and hold it all together. Alright, so I got that clip dropped in. Now all these teeth have to drop onto those teeth on this drum. So it's going to be a lot of jiggling until I get it to drop on there. So we're going to do that, but we're going to take this thrust washer off here, dip it in the oil and put it back on. These only go on one way, so you just turn it till it drops. And we're going to put that up in there now. Alright, so I've stood the case up and slid this back and forth and around the slid till it dropped through all 5 of them. You see how that bevel's now even? And if you look down from the inside, there's no gap in between this unit and the other unit. So it's set all the way down. And just keep doing this till it drops all the way. So we're ready now to build this next clutch pack. We're going to put it all in the oil for 15 minutes. And this is the one, the direction, so this is the second, third drum. This is the one that recommends sanding. So we're going to sand that while we're waiting for the, so this is a sander, the 180 or 220 grit. So we're going to sand this drum so it's, we're going to recondition it and put some scuffs on there for the new band that I bought to catch it. So we're going to do that now. Alright, I used some sandpaper and got the outside of the drum scuffed up. So, and those have been in there for over 15 minutes. So we're ready to put the steels and the clutch packs. Steel. Clutch pack, steel, these are all new steels too, so part of the kit I bought. Steel, clutch pack. So I'm going to get this put together and then I'm going to put the circlip on. and then I'll get it slid up in there. And this is the one the band goes on, so the band's friction material too, so I got to get it soaking for 15 minutes. And somewhere this thing will drop in there. So yeah, pretty boring, pretty easy. Be a lot easier if I use two hands here. So, alright, I'm gonna turn the camera off. For some reason that one does want to drop. Same thing as the other clutch packs, is that, you know, the top one is different. It doesn't come with the new of the kit, you gotta reuse it. And then drop that circlip in. And then I'll put this in there, and then put the drum band on. So the trick to this one is to put the input shaft in and spin the inner till it drops together. So you spin that inner one and it'll drop all the way together there. Alright, so I got the band put in there and just snugged all the way down for now. And I'll put the servo together over here on this side with the new spring, and then put the front pump in. And after the front pump, we go to the tail shaft. Now I got the servo piston pulled out, and then we got these seals that need replaced. And this was the old spring. If you notice, it's a little shorter. This one's a little stiffer. So we're going to replace this spring, put the piston back together there, and put it back in the transmission. Alright, so the servo is bolted on. Servo pushes the second gear. So this band will have to be adjusted. It's really tight right now. A couple small taps with the brass hammer, and the seal popped in inside there. And you know, real light taps that get just kind of go in. So now we're going to swing it around here and put the front pump on. Alright, put the gasket in first, and then I add-walled this. A couple light taps with the brass hammer, and it dropped down past the seal, you know, and the seal's in the inside. And now I'm going to torque these 7 bolts for the pump end. And then after I do this, I can adjust this, because I got the second gear band holding everything together right now. So after I get it tightened down, I'll check to make sure everything turns with the input shaft, and make sure that I don't have some kind of clearance issue or it's locked up. And then we'll adjust that band and put the valve body on. Alright, I got the front pump torqued in here. It says 16 to 30 pounds. I'm at 25. So that's all done. Now we can adjust the band and then put the valve body in that we rebuilt, and then do the tail shaft. Okay, so this service manual says that torque it down to 10 foot-pounds, and then back it off 1.5 turns, and then put the jam nut down. So that's done. The band is now, see, it's loose, but it's tight. So now the band's done. I can put the valve body on or the tail shaft. It doesn't matter which one at this time, but we're getting there, and it spins. Everything in here is not locked up, so of course it's not going to let me do it in front of you now, but it's all able to spin in here. It's not locked up, and we'll get the valve body and the tail shaft on. Alright, my little tail shaft's a little different than most C6s because I got this bolt-on yoke, because I got a force transfer case, but on the tail shaft, just you might have to wiggle around to get it to go through all the clutch packs all the way down to here. That needle bearing that's right in this area, that's how far that thing drops in there. So we're going to take the governor apart and work on it now, but I stood it up to put the tail shaft in because all the clutch packs are easier. They're not like falling down on weight. So now we're going to lay it back down on the side, and we'll be able to put the tail shaft on and put the valve body in. Alright, I got the governor taken off the back of the tail shaft here. It's just 4 bolts. And I've cleaned it out and made sure this valve shifts. And then I took this valve out and cleaned it really, really good. What we're going to do now is put that valve back in, put the spring in, then we're going to drop on the 1/4-inch check balls. The one that was left over from doing that needle. We're going to put it in there, and by swinging around, it may unstick this valve if it sticks, and it'll keep you from having to do a bunch of transmission work. Alright, so that ball's in there now. Hear it? So that little weight of that ball may be enough to unstick that valve if it gets any dirt in there. It's swinging around. And that may make it so you'll lose 2nd or 3rd gear if this thing doesn't work right back here. Because it gives pressure to it allows fluid to come through to the valve body. So we got the governor all clean. There's no trash in the back of it anymore. It all moves. We've added the 1/4-inch check ball inside there. You pull that plate out, and that spring has to drop back in that little dimple right there. So you'll use a screwdriver to put that back, and then this plate will capture everything. Alright, so there's no gasket or anything. We'll just bolt that right back on. Like that. Torque it down. Then we can put the tail shaft on. And you know, the yoke. Alright, so when putting the valve body back on, you gotta drop this little pawl back in the right spot. So you see it there? That has to go, that knobby one there, it goes into that, and then the other one pushes on that rod for the kickdown lever. So this one with the U-shaped thing. So you got to have these drop into there or you're not going to get any shifting. So I'm going to put the valve body on now. It just drops in and has a bunch of bolts on the outside to go. There's 2 longer bolts. So these top corner with the filter, those are longer. And then these bolts around the outside, they're all the same length. So the pin that's on that valve body, this arm has to be back. So you need to actually check that you're moving that kickdown cable or rod, and then also that you're actually, the pawl is actually into that detent there. And I got all the bolts in. I'm going to torque them all down now, and the valve body's on. And you can see how even if the pan comes flat onto that, it's still going to be able to get fluid, so it won't burn the transmission up. So we'll torque this valve body down now and then get the tail shaft on. Alright, all the valve body bolts are torqued down to 100 inch-pounds. So valve body's on there now. And now just got to do the tail shaft. And all the transmission pans. So I guess I can put the pan on right now and torque them down. You can actually see where that rubber was. Could have been really close to the pan before. It must have been touching it. So I've beat it back down, and with that like that, even if it does come down and touch it, it's going to get fluid to come into there. So it'll never go dry. So we're going to We modified the new filter that I bought. This was only $2, but we modified this filter. And we've made sure that we cleared the pan, and now we're going to put the gasket on. The pan's torqued on there, 8 foot-pounds. No silicone, so we got nothing to go in to get caught up in anything we just cleaned. Just got to put the tail shaft on, and then put the yoke on, and she's ready to go put in the truck. Alright, the paper gasket's on, and these all been torqued to 25 foot-pounds, all 6 bolts. So now I got the extension. This is what tells that yoke when to stop. So that's the spacer that goes in there. Put the spacer on, put the yoke on, and then tighten that thing down, and like 150 foot-pounds. And then after that, I just got to do a little work with the converter. I need to drain the converter, get all the old fluid out of it, and we'll get that yoke. Put a pipe wrench on the yoke, a big bar, and a modified socket on a lathe, and Chinese 3/4 inch drive. Breathing heavy, but I know I got it tight. So the yoke's on now. All I gotta do is the converter, shove the input shaft in, and hopefully I can get that converter drain plug to come out so I can flush it. And then she'll be rebuilt. Got the rear transmission mount bolted back on. So now just gotta mess with that converter. Well, the plug come out pretty easy. So I got the plug out of this converter, and it's never had water in it. So it probably didn't freeze or break anything inside there. Come out of that big camper, so it's probably like an 1800, 2000 stall. It'd be fine for my truck. It's never, as far as I know, it's never had water in it. So we're going, and all the impellers should be good inside. So we're going to use this converter that I bought out of that spare transmission, and right now we're going to drain it. We're just going to prop it up there and let all that fluid drain out of that hole, and give it some time and then come back. So and then we'll fill that up with a quart or two of fluid, and then put it back in, let it drop, and this transmission will be rebuilt. Alright, she's all draining out, and that old fluid's coming out of her, but it ain't got no water in it, so we'll drain that out, and that converter should be good. We'll have all new fluid, and I know this one hasn't froze inside, so we're going to use this one, and we're going to drain it all out and fill it full of fluid. Alright, the converter's in, and it dropped both clicks back. So she's in good shape. Transmission's ready to go in the truck. And give her the old hope and pray. And back to four-wheeling again. Alright, you like this kind of stuff, check back in. Have a nice day.